The massive ships appeared without warning. One moment, the sky over New York was clear and blue. The next, it was filled with dark shapes that blocked out the sun. The same thing happened over London, Moscow, Beijing, and every major city across Earth. Humanity's first contact with aliens had begun, but not in the way anyone had hoped. Captain James Miller stood on the roof of the UN Defense Force headquarters, his weathered face turned upward as he watched another giant ship join the others. 20 years in the military hadn't prepared him for this moment. His radio crackled with panicked reports from units worldwide, all saying the same thing. Their weapons were useless. "Sir, they're broadcasting something." A young soldier ran up to him, tablet in hand. "It's being transmitted on all frequencies." The message was simple and clear. "People of Earth, this is the Stellar Dominion. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender immediately or face destruction. You have one Earth day to comply." Miller rushed to the emergency meeting of world leaders and military commanders. The conference room was chaos, with everyone talking over each other. On the massive screens around them, footage showed jets firing missiles at the alien ships. The missiles exploded harmlessly against invisible shields, not even leaving a scratch. "Our most advanced weapons are like throwing pebbles at a tank," General Thompson said, his face red with frustration. "Even our experimental laser systems can't get through their shields." More footage came in from around the world. Tank divisions, artillery batteries, even experimental weapons. Nothing worked. The aliens didn't even bother to fire back. They just hung there in the sky, their shields flickering slightly with each impact, as if laughing at humanity's efforts. Miller watched as a squadron of F-35s made another attempt. Their missiles created beautiful explosions against the shield, like fireworks at a parade. But when the smoke cleared, the alien ship remained unmarked. The pilots reported that their most sophisticated targeting systems couldn't even get a proper lock on the vessels. In China, their most advanced electromagnetic pulse weapon was fired. For a moment, everyone held their breath. The pulse hit the alien shield and simply disappeared, as if absorbed by a sponge. In Russia, their new hypersonic missiles failed to make any impact. Even India's latest anti-satellite weapons proved useless against the ships in low orbit. "They're not just advanced," Miller said, studying the readings from various sensors. "It's like they're operating on a completely different level of physics. Our weapons aren't failing because they're too weak. They're failing because they might as well be speaking a different language." The hours ticked by, and desperation grew. Some suggested trying nuclear weapons, but others argued it would only anger the aliens while devastating Earth's own cities. The ships were positioned too close to population centers to risk it. Miller walked to the window, watching the nearest ship hover over the city. Its surface was smooth and dark, like polished obsidian, with strange patterns that seemed to shift and move when you looked at them too long. Occasionally, smaller craft would emerge from openings in its hull, patrolling in perfect formation. A scientist rushed in with new readings. "The energy output from just one of these ships," she explained, "is equal to everything we produce on Earth combined. Their shields appear to operate on some kind of resonance frequency we've never seen before." As the day wore on, more ships arrived. They took position over smaller cities, military bases, and key infrastructure. The message was clear. The Stellar Dominion could strike anywhere, at any time, and humanity was powerless to stop them. Miller looked at his watch. 15 hours left until the deadline. 15 hours to find a way to fight back against an enemy that made humanity's most advanced technology look like stone tools. 15 hours to prevent Earth's surrender to an alien force that saw them as nothing more than primitive beings to be conquered. The sun began to set, but few could see it through the massive ships that now dotted the sky worldwide. Humanity's first day of contact was ending, and unless something changed dramatically, it might also be their last day of freedom. Dr. Lisa Anderson hadn't slept in 36 hours. While the world's military forces wasted time shooting useless weapons at the alien ships, she stayed in her lab at the Research Institute, staring at readings that made no sense. Empty coffee cups littered her desk, and her normally tidy brown hair was a mess from running her fingers through it in frustration. The lab equipment around her hummed and beeped, measuring every possible type of radiation and energy coming from the alien ships. Most of her colleagues had gone home to their families after the alien ultimatum, but Lissa couldn't leave. Something about the shield readings bothered her, like an itch she couldn't scratch. "Mom, you need to sleep," her daughter Emma said through the phone. "The aliens said we have until tomorrow to surrender. You can't help if you're too tired to think." "Just a few more tests, honey," Lisa replied, adjusting another dial. "There's something weird about these shield frequencies. They don't follow any patterns we know." The door opened, and Captain Miller walked in. He had been checking all the research facilities, looking for anything that might help. "Dr. Anderson, the military wants an update on your findings." Lisa pointed to her screens. "Look at this. When we fire weapons at their shields, the energy doesn't get absorbed or reflected like it should. It's like—" She searched for a simple way to explain it, like trying to play a CD in a tape player. "Our weapons and their shields are speaking completely different languages." Miller rubbed his tired eyes. "Can we learn their language?" "Maybe." Lissa pulled up another chart. "Their shields operate on some kind of resonance frequency, like how an opera singer can break a glass by hitting just the right note. But it's incredibly complex. We'd need something that could produce the exact opposite frequency to disrupt it." "How long would it take to build something like that?" Lisa shook her head. "Months, maybe years. We'd need to understand their technology better, run more tests." She stopped as her computer beeped. "That's strange." "What is it?" "One of my sensors just picked up a weird reaction. The shield's frequency changed for a second." She checked the timestamp. "Right around 3:15 p.m. Miller checked his notes. Nothing was fired at the ships then. All attacks were stopped after noon. Lisa started digging through the data, looking for anything unusual that happened at that time. Security footage showed nothing special, just a group of school kids being evacuated past the building, some of them playing with toys to stay calm despite the ships looming overhead. She rewound the footage, watching it again and again. The shield frequency spike happened right as the kids walked by. What were they doing? What were they playing with? The footage was grainy, but she could see something in their hands, small plastic objects they were blowing into. Her eyes widened as she remembered something from her own childhood. "Captain," she said slowly, "I need you to find me a kazoo. You know, those cheap plastic toys kids blow into to make noise." Miller looked at her like she had lost her mind. "A kazoo? Doctor, we're facing alien invasion. This isn't time for—" "Just trust me," Lisa interrupted. "There's something I need to test." While Miller made some calls, Lisa pulled up more data. She started plotting sound wave frequencies, comparing them to the shield resonance patterns. The math was starting to show something incredible, but she barely dared to believe it. 20 minutes later, Miller returned with a bright blue plastic kazoo. "This was all we could find in the whole building. Someone's kid left it here last week." Lisa took the toy with trembling hands. She positioned it near her most sensitive sensor, took a deep breath, and blew into it. The familiar buzzing sound filled the lab. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every sensor in the room went crazy. Warning alerts flashed across her screens. The shield frequency readings jumped off the charts. "My God," she whispered, staring at the results. "Captain, look at this. The kazoo, it's producing almost the exact frequency we need. Not powerful enough to disrupt their shields completely. But what?" Lisa's tired face broke into a smile. "But if we had enough of them, if we could coordinate the sound somehow." She turned to Miller, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. "Captain, I think I just found a way to fight back." And it's going to sound completely ridiculous. The conference room fell silent as Dr. Lisa Anderson finished her presentation. The world's top military leaders stared at her, with expressions ranging from disbelief to outright anger. The silence stretched until General Thompson stood up, his face red. "Let me get this straight," he said, pointing at the screen showing a plastic kazoo. "You want us to fight advanced alien invaders with dollar store toys?" Lisa stood her ground. "The data doesn't lie, General. Look at these readings." She clicked to the next slide, showing wave patterns. When multiple kazoos are played together, the resonance effect multiplies. We've tested it with just 10 kazoos, and the shield disruption was measurable from half a mile away. Captain Miller stepped forward to support her. "We've confirmed it with 3 separate tests. The kazoos create the exact frequency needed to interfere with their shield harmonics." "This is absurd," a Russian general said through his translator. "We have nuclear weapons, tanks, advanced fighter jets, and you want us to fight with toys." Lisa switched to video footage from their latest test. The recording showed a small drone with alien-style shielding they'd managed to capture and study. As a group of researchers played kazoos nearby, the shield flickered and failed. The aliens designed their shields to stop energy weapons, projectiles, and explosions, Lisa explained. They never thought to defend against sound waves at this specific frequency. It's like having the world's strongest door, but forgetting to close a window. The Chinese military commander leaned forward. "How many of these kazoos would we need?" Lisa took a deep breath. "Based on our calculations, at least 1 million to affect the smaller ships, 5 million for the largest ones, and they'd need to be played in somewhat close proximity." The room erupted in argument again. Lisa watched as the military leaders shouted about logistics, dignity, and the impossibility of coordinating such an attack. She turned to check her phone, where a text from Emma waited. "Mom, I found more kazoos at the toy store. And guess what? My friends all want to help test them." That gave her an idea. "Listen," she shouted over the arguing generals. "We don't need military precision for this. We need people, regular people, kids, anyone who can blow into a plastic tube. The aliens are monitoring our military channels, expecting missiles and bombs. They're not watching for a civilian response." The room grew quiet again as she continued. "Their ships are positioned over our cities, over millions of people, if we can get kazoos to enough of them. You want to turn this into some kind of mass musical attack?" General Thompson asked, his tone softening slightly. "Exactly," Miller jumped in. "Think about it. The aliens won't see it coming. They're expecting a military response. Their intelligence shows we're helpless. The last thing they'll expect is civilians with toys." Lisa pulled up another chart. "We've located 3 factories that can mass-produce kazoos. With emergency funding, they could make millions within days. We can distribute them through schools, stores, community centers. Make it look like a morale-boosting effort rather than a military strategy." The Indian general started laughing. "It's crazy enough that it might work. Imagine telling our grandchildren we defeated an alien invasion with kazoos." More leaders began nodding. The absurdity of the plan was becoming its greatest strength. Even if the aliens intercepted their communications now, would they believe it? Would they really see children's toys as a threat? Thompson stood again. "Dr. Anderson, how sure are you about this?" Lisa straightened her lab coat. "General, in the past 48 hours, I've tested this theory 73 times. The results are consistent. The kazoos disrupt their shield frequency. With enough of them, played together, we can bring down their defenses." Miller added, "And once the shields are down, our conventional weapons will work just fine." The room fell silent once more as the implications sank in. Humanity's fate might rest not on their most advanced weapons, but on plastic toys that sold for less than $1 each. Finally, Thompson nodded. "God help us all, but I don't see any better options. Captain Miller, work with Dr. Anderson. Get those factories running. And someone find me a kazoo. I need to learn how to play the damn thing. The toy factories worked around the clock. Machines that usually made plastic cars and dolls now churned out endless streams of kazoos. Workers who had been ready to evacuate their cities instead stayed at their posts, knowing each toy they produced might help save Earth. Captain Miller stood in the largest warehouse he'd ever seen, surrounded by mountains of colorful plastic kazoos. Red ones, blue ones, yellow ones, millions of them packed in boxes labeled emergency morale boosters. The label wasn't entirely a lie. The aliens are getting suspicious, he told Dr. Anderson as she checked another shipment. They've been scanning our military bases more frequently, probably looking for weapon buildups. Lisa smiled. But they're not watching toy factories or dollar stores. The latest batch is already being distributed through ice cream trucks and pizza delivery services. It was true. All across the world, unusual delivery patterns were emerging. School buses dropped off boxes of musical instruments at community centers. Mail carriers delivered special care packages to every house. Store shelves that usually held candy now displayed rows of kazoos. The aliens had expected resistance. They'd prepared for missiles, for nuclear weapons, for any military action humans might take. But their sophisticated scanning equipment wasn't designed to track children's toys. Why would it be? In his command center, Miller watched the distribution maps update in real time. Green dots spread across city maps like a growing wave, each one representing another successful kazoo delivery. Next to the maps, screens showed alien ships still hovering over major cities, their dark shapes casting long shadows. "Sir," a young lieutenant reported, "we're getting coded messages from other countries. Operation Kazoo is reaching final stages worldwide. The Russians are hiding them in vodka bottles. The Japanese are distributing them with manga. The Indians are mixing them in with festival supplies." Miller nodded. They'd need every kazoo they could get. The plan would only work if enough people participated. A few thousand kazoos would do nothing. A few million, though, that might just save the world. Meanwhile, Dr. Anderson was teaching people how to use their weapons effectively. "The key is to blow steadily," she explained to a group of community leaders. "It's not about being musical. It's about maintaining a constant tone. And when you hear the signal, everyone needs to play at once." The internet helped spread the word. Social media filled with seemingly innocent posts about kazoo concerts and street music festivals. Memes about musical flash mobs circulated widely. The aliens, monitoring human communications, saw only a species trying to keep its spirits up in the face of defeat. But beneath the surface, humanity was preparing for the strangest battle in its history. People practiced in their basements and bathrooms, learning to maintain the specific tone needed. Children taught their parents the best way to blow into the toys. Musicians helped coordinate timing across different neighborhoods. "Tomorrow," Miller told his staff, checking the final preparations, "the aliens' deadline ends at noon. They'll be expecting our surrender. Instead, they'll get the concert of their lives." Lisa was still in her lab, making final adjustments to the signal system. They'd use emergency broadcast systems, radio stations, and even cell phone apps to coordinate the global kazoo attack. "Just think," she said to Miller when he checked on her, "if this works, we'll go down in history as the species that defeated an advanced alien empire with toys. And if it doesn't work, then at least we'll go out on a high note." As night fell, millions of people around the world went to bed with kazoos hidden under their pillows. Parents told their children that tomorrow they'd help save the world. Elderly folks practiced one last time before sleeping. Even hard-faced soldiers slipped the cheap plastic toys into their uniform pockets. In their ships high above, the Stellar Dominion prepared to accept Earth's surrender, completely unaware that humanity's secret weapon was already in place. They had no idea that in less than 12 hours, the most ridiculous plan in military history would be put into action. Miller looked out his window at the alien ship looming over the city. "I hope you aliens are ready for some music," he whispered, gripping his own blue kazoo. Because tomorrow, Earth gives its first and last galactic concert. The morning of humanity's last stand dawned bright and clear. The alien ships still hung in the sky like dark clouds, their surfaces gleaming in the early sunlight. Inside the command center, Captain Miller watched the clock tick closer to noon, his blue kazoo sitting ready on the desk beside him. Dr. Lisa Anderson's voice came through his earpiece. All monitoring stations are ready. Remember, we need at least 30 seconds of sustained sound to break through their shields completely. Across the world, people watched their phones and radios, waiting for the signal. Parents held their children's hands. Teachers stood with their students. Office workers gathered in groups. Everyone had a kazoo, and everyone knew what to do. The aliens sent their final message exactly at 11:55 a.m. Your time is up. Prepare to receive our terms of surrender. Miller picked up his microphone, broadcasting on all emergency channels. This is Captain James Miller of the UN Defense Force. To all citizens of Earth, prepare for Operation Kazoo. Stand by for the signal. In their ships, the alien commanders detected the broadcast, but dismissed it as meaningless human chatter. Their sensors showed no military buildups, no missile launches, no signs of resistance. Just millions of humans standing around in streets and buildings, many holding small plastic objects. At 11:59 a.m., Miller took a deep breath and pressed the broadcast button. For Earth, begin in 3, 2, 1. The sound started small. In New York, a kid in Central Park blew the first note. His friends joined in, then their parents, then everyone around them. The sound spread through the streets like a wave, growing louder with each passing second. In Tokyo, millions of people raised their kazoos at once. The buzzing tone filled the air, echoing off buildings. Beijing's streets erupted in a chorus of plastic instruments. In London, the sound rolled across the city like thunder. The alien ship's sensors registered the noise but couldn't classify it as a weapon. It was too simple, too primitive. But then their shield monitors started showing strange readings. Lisa watched her instruments light up. It's working. The shield frequencies are destabilizing. Keep playing, everyone. The kazoo concert grew louder. In Moscow, people played from their windows and balconies. Rio de Janeiro's beaches filled with the buzzing sound. Cairo's ancient streets echoed with the modern sound of plastic toys. Inside their ships, alien commanders frantically checked their systems. Shield power was fluctuating wildly. The resonance frequency they'd thought was unbeatable was being matched and canceled out by millions of simple toys. 15 seconds. Lisa counted through the broadcast. The shields are weakening. Keep going. Miller watched as the nearest ship's shield began to flicker visibly. The aliens finally realized the danger, but it was too late. They couldn't modify their shields fast enough to block the specific frequency the humans had discovered by accident. 25 seconds. Around the world, the sound grew to its peak. In India, entire neighborhoods played in perfect unison. Australian cities buzzed with determination. African villages joined the global concert. The sound of hope, transmitted through cheap plastic toys, became Earth's battle cry. 30 seconds. The shields are failing. The alien ship's defenses collapsed all at once. Their impenetrable barriers, designed to withstand the most advanced weapons, were defeated by a symphony of toys. Emergency lights flashed across their hulls as they tried desperately to restore power. All military forces, Miller shouted into his radio. The shields are down. Begin counterattack. Jets that had been waiting at high altitude dove toward the now vulnerable ships. Missiles that had been useless before now struck their targets. The aliens, panicked and confused, began emergency launch sequences. But humanity didn't stop playing. The kazoo concert continued, preventing the shields from reactivating. Ship after ship was forced to retreat, their supposedly superior technology defeated by the most unlikely weapon in human history. Lisa's voice crackled with joy over the radio. It worked. The frequency disruption is total. They can't restore their shields as long as we keep playing. Miller looked out his window as the massive ships began to rise, fleeing from the endless concert below. The sky was clearing for the first time in days, and the sound of millions of kazoos became humanity's song of victory. The alien ships retreated in complete disarray. Some crashed into each other in their hurry to escape Earth's atmosphere, their perfectly organized formations now broken by panic. The mighty stellar dominion, which had conquered 100 worlds, fled from the sound of plastic toys. Inside the command center, Captain Miller watched the radar screens as the massive ships disappeared one by one. His ears were still ringing from an hour of continuous kazoo playing. Around him, officers were slumped in their chairs, many still holding their kazoos, looking equal parts exhausted and amused. "Sir," a lieutenant called out, trying not to laugh, "we're getting surrender messages from 3 smaller alien ships. Their engines were damaged in the retreat. They're requesting permission to land and seek repairs." Miller shared a look with Dr. Anderson, who had just walked in from her monitoring station. Her hair was even messier than before, but her eyes sparkled with triumph. "Keep those kazoos ready," he ordered. "If they try anything, we'll give them an encore." Outside, people were still celebrating in the streets. Many continued to play their kazoos just for fun, creating a strange but joyful cacophony. News helicopters captured footage of the last alien ships vanishing into the clouds, their mighty engines pushed to maximum speed in their desperation to escape Earth's musical assault. The first alien commander to surrender was brought to the UN building under heavy guard. The alien was tall and imposing, with advanced armor and technology that would have seemed incredible just days ago. Now it just looked like expensive decoration that couldn't stand up to a dollar store toy. "We do not understand," the alien said through a translator device. "Our shields were tested against every known weapon in the galaxy. How did you defeat them with?" It couldn't even finish the sentence. Lisa stepped forward, holding up a red plastic kazoo. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Your shields were so advanced, you never thought to defend against something this basic. You were looking for complex attacks while we found the one simple frequency it could break your defenses." The alien took the kazoo in its 4-fingered hand, studying it like it was some kind of advanced technology. "Our scientists said human technology was primitive. We thought you would be an easy conquest." "That was your mistake," Miller said. "You judged us by our technology, not by our creativity. Sometimes being primitive means thinking in ways your advanced civilization never considered." Reports came in from around the world. The kazoo attack had been successful everywhere. A few alien ships had crashed in remote areas, their crews now under guard by soldiers carrying both guns and kazoos. The sight of elite military units with plastic toys clipped to their tactical gear would have been hilarious if it hadn't been so effective. In her lab, Lisa examined the readings from the attack. The combined frequency of millions of kazoos had created a sound wave pattern that perfectly canceled out the alien shield harmonics. It was like a massive game of rock, paper, scissors, where the most advanced technology in the galaxy was beaten by injection-molded plastic. The alien prisoners were kept in special cells with speakers ready to play the kazoo frequency if they tried anything. Most of them seemed too embarrassed to cause trouble. Being defeated by children's toys had apparently broken their military spirit. Miller found himself explaining the victory to news reporters. "Yes, we really did defeat them with kazoos. No, this isn't a joke. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the most advanced one. It's the one they never see coming." As night fell, celebration parties broke out worldwide. Every party had the same soundtrack. The buzzing of kazoos played by laughing people. The sound that had saved Earth was becoming its victory song. Street vendors were already selling alien defense kazoos at marked-up prices, and toy companies were rushing to produce commemorative versions. The alien commander watched all this from its holding cell, still trying to process how its mighty invasion force had been defeated. On a small table in the cell sat a blue plastic kazoo, a reminder that somewhere, somehow, There was always a simple solution to even the most advanced problem. 6 months after the Great Kazoo victory, Earth had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The planet's first official galactic embassy opened in Geneva, with a giant golden kazoo mounted above its entrance. The alien diplomats who came to negotiate trade deals and peace treaties always stared at it nervously. Captain Miller, now General Miller, sat in his new office at the Interstellar Defense Command. On his desk, framed in a glass case, sat the blue kazoo he had used during humanity's greatest battle. Next to it was a tablet showing the latest intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The Stellar Dominion has completely reformed their shield technology, he told Dr. Anderson as she walked in. Apparently, they're testing their new designs against every musical instrument in the galaxy, just to be safe. Lisa laughed, settling into a chair. She had become Earth's leading expert in alien technology, though some alien scientists still refuse to believe her papers about the kazoo incident. And how's our reputation doing out there? Miller pulled up a holographic display, courtesy of their new alien allies. We're becoming known as the species you don't mess with, not because we're advanced, but because we're unpredictable. Some alien races are actually studying human children's toys, trying to figure out if there are any other secret weapons they should know about. News from around the galaxy proved this true. Stories about Earth's victory had spread far and wide, growing more incredible with each retelling. Some versions claimed that humans had magical sound powers. Others insisted that kazoos were actually ancient superweapons left on Earth by precursor civilizations. The truth was both simpler and stranger. Humanity had joined the galactic community not through overwhelming force or advanced technology, but through the creative use of cheap plastic toys. It was a fact that many advanced races found deeply disturbing. Earth's toy manufacturers had become unexpected players in interstellar trade. Alien collectors paid huge sums for authentic Earth defense kazoos. Some paranoid alien military forces bought them in bulk for research, trying to understand the primitive yet effective weapon. In schools across Earth, children learned about the Great Kazoo Battle alongside other historic moments. The actual kazoo that Dr. Anderson had used for her first test was now in the Smithsonian, displayed between the Wright brothers' plane and the first moon landing capsule. We've received another trade delegation request, Miller said, checking his messages. This time from a civilization that's even more advanced than the Dominion was. They want to establish peaceful relations immediately. Let me guess, they're worried about our other toys. Actually, yes. Their message specifically asks if we have weaponized any other recreational sound-generating devices. I think they're scared of finding out what we could do with a Vuvuzela. The kazoo had become Earth's unofficial symbol in space. Human ships carried them as standard emergency equipment. Earth's first colony on Mars had a kazoo-shaped community center. The United Nations had added a kazoo to its flag, representing humanity's unity in the face of alien invasion. In her lab, Lisa was working with a team of human and alien scientists, studying how simple sound waves could affect advanced technology. The aliens brought incredible machines and theories, while the humans contributed unconventional thinking and a willingness to try seemingly ridiculous ideas. The funny thing is, Lisa told Miller as they walked through the lab, we probably never would have discovered this if they hadn't threatened us. Sometimes you need pressure to think outside the box. Outside, life had mostly returned to normal, though with some strange new additions. Alien tourists visited Earth in growing numbers, always asking to see the famous kazoo factories. Street performers included kazoo solos in their acts, making the alien visitors flinch involuntarily. As the sun set over the new skyline of Earth's first truly international city, where human and alien architecture mixed freely, a group of children played in a park. Among their toys were tablets with alien games, holographic puzzles, and, of course, kazoos. They played the simple toys without any idea of their historical significance, creating the same buzzing sound that had saved their world. Miller watched them from his office window, smiling as he heard the familiar sound drift up. You know, he said to Lisa, I don't think we'll ever hear a kazoo the same way again. No, she agreed, but maybe that's the point. Sometimes the most powerful things are the ones we take for granted. The aliens forgot that lesson, but thanks to them, we never will.